And we're back on the record with Tiffany and one of my favorite guests, Dr. William Henrich. Dr. Henrich, in our last segment, we talked a little bit about some of the new projects that you have going on at UT Health. Tell my listeners a little bit more about, because you have so many things that are happening that are really unprecedented, unique projects. I mean, we could touch on almost any department.
We could.
Something.
You know, I think it's probably, it goes without saying, but maybe it deserves emphasis for the audience to know that starting with the first step of why we were created 51 years ago. We were created as a state agency to do the public good. And we were chartered as a school because the wisdom of the state leaders at the time was that we needed a place that would provide educations of the first class to the next generation of doctors, nurses, dentists, health professionals, and scientists. So UT Health has at its core mission the public good. That means everybody. That doesn't mean one segment and not another segment. It means everybody is part of that.
And I want our listeners to understand exactly what you just said there. UT Health, they don't pick and choose the patients that come in. It doesn't matter how sick they are. The doctors and the scientists and the researchers there are there specifically to do exactly what he just said, to do the public good. So
that's right.
There isn't anyone that they're turning away.
So it's our compass. It's a mission we embrace. And we try to do the public good through three missions. Through the education mission, we were chartered as schools.
Mm-hmm.
We have to turn out 1,000 newly minted health professionals every May and June who
Wow.
go into the workforce. That's one thing. The second mission is biomedical research, to be on the leading edge of biomedical research so that the diseases we have today are more manageable or curable tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And the third is through clinical service. And the hospital we talked about building, our partnership with University Health System and the VA and other places is what we talked about in the first segment. That's how we do that, through our clinical offices around the city and these hospitals. So one of the major ways that we provide the public good is through a clinical service that contains at every person we touch part of our education mission, part of our research mission. So for example, if I saw you as a patient or I saw your family member as a patient, I'd be bringing to bear all of the clinical expertise I had, but backing it up would be my experience as an investigator and my experience as an educator. And I like that triple benefit for patients at the time that they're seen. I think it offers an advantage for the patient. And we collaborate with everybody in the city, and we will continue to do that enthusiastically. But I think this is our unique feature, Tiffany, is that we have embedded in every person that we see these other missions that we are mindful of when we see a new person. So for example, if there's something, heaven forbid, that somebody had a cancer that the conventional therapy wasn't useful for, it didn't have an effect. We have available, because we have a National Cancer Institute designated center, clinical trials, many clinical trials that not only can inure a benefit to the person, to the person's family, but also leave a research record about what works and what doesn't work. So for the most difficult cancers, the most difficult kinds of heart disease, the most difficult and most vulnerable in diabetes and so forth, we can steer the person to a trial that will hopefully help them but also help others as we build the body of knowledge. You know, nobody in 2020, nobody, not a single person living in the world who's experienced the disruption that this pandemic has caused. There's not a single person today who would say that science isn't important.
That's right.
Who would sit there and say, it doesn't matter, I don't care about it? Because even if you have blinders on about science and you've taken all the things that we take for granted, if you've done that your whole life, you can't say that you haven't been touched by this pandemic.
Exactly.
Airlines aren't flying, businesses aren't open, restaurants aren't working, school is a mess, and on and on and on. This pandemic has brought the world to its proverbial knees, and it is in that context that everybody now has to understand that our only hope, our best hope for the future, is rooted in scientific discovery.
That's right.
And so,
and that requires working together.
It requires collaborative teamwork. It requires identifying the problems that are the most vexing to solve today. And then it involves a team of dedicated, resilient people.
That's right.
I'll tell you.
You know what, I have to say this. When this pandemic took over and it seemed like all heaven was breaking loose around here. I thought about you. I thought about the teams of people working at UT Health, at in research, because there's so much that happens on that campus, and I thought, man, the whole city needs to know about what's going on in those hallowed halls, because what is happening there will save our lives now, and will pave the way for therapeutics, for new ways of dealing with old diseases in the future.
That's right. Well, there are some who say that the reason life expectancy in industrialized countries like ours has progressed from where it was to where it is today, from say the 19th century through the 20th century to the 21st century, is because of two major factors: the ability to provide people clean water, and the second is the development of antibiotics. Each of these advances is leveraged on science, and science has helped us. And we take them all for granted. We are so interested in other things that we don't think about this until a little RNA particle called CoV-2 came out of civets or bats or some animal in the Far East, and then found a human host. And until that moment, until that nanosecond, you could say, well, I don't know if that was all that important. But if you look at your historical literature, you'll agree with me that we were always leveraged against science. We were always leveraged about what the next discovery would be or what the next challenge would be to our health. And something you and I said when we were taping a minute ago is true. In addition to understanding the centrality of scientific discovery, there is nobody in the country now who would say that the single most important element in your life, aside from your loved ones, is your health.
That's right.
You lose your health, you can't work, you can't learn, you can't comport your daily activities. So that's why it's so central, so core to the to our lives. And I think if there's one good thing that came out of the pandemic, it's the fact that this realization is true, and that we all need to be aware of it.
And people are becoming aware of it.
You need to be aware of it.
The average person is now thinking about their health.
I think so.
You know, we are. it's on everybody's minds. You know, when I say this all the time, the reason why I'm not in the same boat as all of the rest of my family members is because 10 years ago I weighed 340 pounds and I lost 187 pounds 10 years ago and kept it off. When I did that,
You know, you could make people really perk their ears up if you turned the show into how I lost 100 pounds. People don't care about listening to me, but they would certainly like to listen to you talk about how you lost 187 pounds.
I will tell you that change with my cousin who is in ESRD and my brother who is in ESRD. He went into ESRD since I've been in this job. My little cousin lost 167 pounds and now he's up for transplant.
Oh, good for him.
My brother, we think that what's wrong with us, with our family, our side of the family, is that we have APOL1.
Mm-hmm.
And so I introduced Durrell to Dr. Wesson.
Mm-hmm.
And Durrell started doing a vegan diet.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's probably the most vigilant person I know about his health. I am like the loser in the family. I'm the underachiever in our family. My brother is like, you know, he's the winningest attorney in the state of Texas in his specialty. Still is, even being in renal failure. And he's even though he's in stage 5, he has pushed back pushed back dialysis by following a very strict diet. But our health is the most important thing in our lives. If you can marshal your health and marshal your will to change your BMI even by 10%,
Mm-hmm.
that
Makes a big difference.
it makes a huge difference. Come back and listen, because we're going to talk about some of the other timely things that are happening right now with social injustice and the healthcare system. I think you're going to be happy to hear what's happening in our wonderful city. I feel like we're paving the way for what can be done in the other cities. You're listening to On the Record with Tiffany, and let's talk more about our health.